Eight.
Bang bang.
So you guys are good.
Monday. Bye.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Bang bang with ugali.
Awesome time, eh? Wait. So transition smooth.
You guys go home and eat.
It's already
Yeah.
Awesome. Are we live?
just about to.
It's saying live 22 seconds. What does that mean? This went live already.
Just now.
Guys, are we live?
Yes, we are
We're
live.
live.
Since when?
IG, TikTok.
IG, TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't see who's tuning in. Where's my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Um, and yeah, we're trying to get started despite the conversations on what people are having for dinner. Today, it's 8:03 p.m. Thursday, the 25th of January, 2024. I hope you're all keeping well, in good health, so forth. And guys, just for your information, this phone is on 12%.
Just about to.
You're about to, okay. As always, I have my support team with me here. You don't see them, they're behind the cameras, running around. So if you hear me talk to someone that you can't see, it's I'm not speaking to imaginary friends. There are live humans in the room with me. Gladys, David, as usual. So forgive the commotion if you hear something happen in the background. Without much further ado, I will invite you all to share this link with all your friends and family. Positive vibes only, good vibes only. People who you believe, think, feel might benefit from the conversations, as always, on land investment in Kenya, safe land investment, property investment in Kenya, East Africa. My name is Solomon Wangwe. I am the founder, managing director of Goshen Acquisitions Limited, as well as its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres Limited, the most transparent, the best, the most orderly, uh, due process following land selling company in Kenya. I could spend all day describing what makes us different from all the other land sellers in Kenya. Uh, but if you want a quick snippet of what makes us different, please just check out our website, look at our social medias. Plenty of information. We've been around for a while. We're not newbies. Been doing this since 2012. So we know a thing or two about how to do it safely. Mistakes having been made as well. So I look forward to sharing our learnings with you all, as well as your friends and family who might be empowered, learn something new, and benefit. So don't be selfish. Share the link. Take a few seconds to share a link with at least three people. Why don't we do that? Just think of the three people in your life who would benefit from this. Share the link with them, invite them to join. If you have questions, comments, concerns, commentary to make around real estate investment in Kenya, this is the time to have it. So send in your questions. You get to ask me. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know, but I'll find out for you because I know plenty of other people smarter than I who've been doing it for way longer than I have that we could also learn from. So let's get started. It's 6 minutes past 8 p.m. We'll keep going until 9 p.m. We normally do this between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. But this year we're trying different things, different time slots, just to make ourselves available to the highest number of people possible. And judging from the interaction that we had last week, the 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. slot was a lot more lively and a lot more engaging than our usual 7 to 8. So today, we'll try 8 to 9 and see how you guys like it, and we'll take it from there. So, karibuni. You guys good?
Yeah, we're good. There's some conversation going on TikTok,
Uh-huh.
but it's not very clear. There's an Abdi, Paid or Paid, I'm not sure. He's saying idea, a company that holds the title deed for freehold property purchased by foreigners in Kenya.
A company holding title for freehold property?
Purchased by foreigners in Kenya.
Impossible. Foreigners cannot own freehold land in Kenya. This has been true since the year 2010. The new constitution promulgated in 2010 prevents foreign ownership of freehold land in Kenya. There is no wiggle room, there's no cheat codes, there's no restructuring to do. So it's not supposed to be. So if a foreigner is holding title, registered as the owner of title, something is really crooked, wrong, off, illegal, and likely immoral too. So no deal for me there. Okay. If in doubt, talk to a licensed advocate who can advise you on what the law says. People have suggested there's ways to do it using shares, register a Kenyan company that owns the freehold land in Kenya, and then assign shares in that company to a foreign national. The moment you do that, the moment there is registered foreign ownership on that Kenyan property or that Kenyan company owning freehold land, then it becomes an illegality. That company, therefore, disqualifies itself from owning the freehold land in Kenya. So there's no clever way to get around this, guys, and that's the intention. Foreigners are welcome to own leasehold land all day long, up to 99 years, renewable. So if a foreigner really wants to own the land, let the title be converted to leasehold so that they can own it legally and unimpeachably without issues. Otherwise, they have no rights to own that property. It can be challenged very easily and their ownership revoked. No shortcuts, do it right. Okay. I see Carol Elabo, Facebook, Monica Keisho, who else? Simon Lusweti. Simon says, or maybe let me talk about Jeffrey Nyaga's question first on TikTok, right? Wondering why a lot of e-commerce property / land sites do not pick up. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jeffrey Nyaga. Could you please clarify your comment, which reads as follows: wondering why a lot of e-commerce property, I'm not sure what e-commerce property means, / land sites do not, okay. I understand your question, Nyaga, forgive me. You're wondering why a lot of company sellers like ourselves who conduct a lot of business on websites or electronic platforms do not pick up? That's an excellent question, Jeffrey. I just tried to reach one today. There's a company out there, a real estate agents, company, an agency that's doing some really cool stuff on social media, digitally, really cool content. I tried to reach them today. I wanted to speak to the director. They had no number listed on their site, which I think is a really poor move. I'm not sure why. Perhaps there's a misconception out there that because you are engaged in e-commerce platforms in your communication, advertising, and sales funneling, that therefore you should not be reachable by phone. Doesn't make sense to me, Jeffrey. So I don't know why they don't pick up. If they do have their numbers listed, that's even worse. It's better that you don't have a number listed than having a number listed and not picking up. I hope that's not been your experience with us at Grand Acres. If it has, Jeffrey, I apologize to you personally. It should not be the case. We do miss calls sometimes, depending on how busy the lines are, but we always make a point to call back and follow up. So if that's been your experience, Jeffrey, unequivocal apologies from Goshen Acquisitions and Grand Acres. If you're speaking about another company, beats me, man. If you can find out, I'd like to know the answer to. Let me see the other comments from StreamYard. Why did you exit?
Oh,
Uh-huh.
you'll be reading. We confuse each other.
It's okay. I'll recognize the question if it's close. All right. I see Simon Dusweti saying, I have some land in Kitale I would like to sell. Simon, best thing for you to do is to send us an email with all the details of your land. We actually have a guideline on our website on what information to send us, and I think Gladys will post for you or David the things we require from you, including a PIN for the location so that we can make a very quick assessment on whether or not it's something that we are interested in. Okay? I see Osborne, our good friend Osborne Odongo from Canada. What's up, Osborne? It's good to see your comments. And Osborne says, Grand family, greetings from #We the North. How are things coming along with Imbuko 5? It's cold out here and it's starting to look like Kurudi Nyumbani is a good idea / plan. Cheers. Welcome home, Osborne, if you do decide to come back. It's nice and warm in Nairobi. Kenya in general. Some places are still raining a bit, but that's a good thing. Imbuko 5, we sold out, as you know, Osborne. We got approvals from the county for change of use and subdivision, residential user, 1 acre lots, just like we pre-sold. And we are now working very diligently to get land registry numbers issued by the county surveyor so that the county's office for the Ministry of Lands Registry can then register individual title deeds. So stay tuned, Osborne. We'll let you know once either one of those two steps is completed. It's taking a bit longer than we'd like, but it's in the works, so stay tuned. I see Abdi Yare saying, can a managing company who holds a mother title belonging to individual leaseholders as collateral for a loan from the banks without the leaseholder's permission? It depends, Abdi Yare. If the title deed is registered to the managing company, yes, whoever is registered as the owner to that title deed can very easily borrow from a bank using that mother title as collateral or security. If they're not, then I don't see how they would be able to. Okay, happens a lot, unfortunately. So the Sectional Properties Act was created specifically to deal with this amongst many other problems. So push the managing company to have that mother title subdivided further, in a sense. You know, you're subdividing land virtually by issuing apartment holders who are sub-leasees on a mother title, individual titles for each apartment. That's what the Sectional Properties Act does. Also deals with leases on or sub-leases on leasehold property that's not vertical. It could be horizontal, like subdivisions, where you basically buy a license of ownership of space within a larger block of land under a mother title, treated exactly the same way. So push for the principals to have the sectional titles produced, and you can slam the door on the risk that you're exposed to by having someone else holding the mother title, especially if the mother title deed is registered to their name. There's very little you can do if they choose to encumber that title. Thank you for your question, Abdi. Angie_WM on Instagram says, hey, do you have plots that would be ideal for high density developments? Is there a market for that in Nanyuki? Thank you for your question, Angie. We do not have anything for high density development in Nanyuki. I think unless you're in Nanyuki CBD Central itself, it makes absolutely no sense to buy land or to be marketed to land for high density. It's a fallacy. If it's been produced legally according to due process in keeping with the Laikipia County's policies on land management and land use, uh, you will not find high density developments outside of CBD. Now, we could further define what high density means, Angie. So maybe if you want to be more specific about that, we can delve into that. But we don't have anything like that in Nanyuki. We do, however, have that in Naivasha. High density development right on the highway, Naivasha Highway, across the road, directly across the road from the Safari Center. Amazing commercial development there. Ours is mixed use with commercial on the road front and residential in the back. A section of the residential is for high density residential, meaning you can do apartment blocks for up to 3 floors, ground plus 3. Okay, so if you're interested in that, please check out our website. The All Kekun development is what we have branded it in Naivasha. You can get a brochure, get all the details, get the site map. Some of those are already sold, and we look forward to selling out on those pretty soon. And these are 1/8 acre in size. Okay, so reach out. We'll be happy to give you information, get you to the site to take a look. But for Nanyuki, we don't have anything high density. I actually like Nanyuki specifically because it's not so developed. The last thing I want to feel when I go to Nanyuki is like I'm back in Langata where I grew up. Too high density. I want to decompress. I want to breathe. I want to enjoy the fresh air, the cool air coming down from that amazing mountain, Mount Kenya, just about 11, 13 kilometers from our site. You know, the last thing I want to feel is constriction. I left Nairobi to be alone and take a breather and have a retreat from my normal everyday hustle and bustle, right? So for that reason, we don't have anything high density. Angie, I'm sorry. But what we do have is excellent for investment. Come take a look, check out our website, book a site visit if you like what you find, and we'll get you owning your piece of Nanyuki in no time. Angie's father says, do you also assist with the process of obtaining approvals from the county? No, we do not, Angie. What we do sell will come with approvals. We don't sell you land that you then have to get approvals for. I think that's a problem in the industry. We sell you a 50 by 100. That's still freehold title on agricultural user. That's absolutely wrong, and technically speaking should not happen at all. The reason it does happen normally is because of corruption, where people like me will bribe county officers to issue compliance certificates for subdivision of land without the proper zoning. Okay, so if you're buying something that's marketed for a particular use, ask the seller to provide you the approvals from the county for the user that they are selling you for. Don't allow anyone to sell you agricultural freehold land, for instance, today, that you can supposedly build a holiday home on in the future. Because what that means is you have to do exactly that. Start looking for approvals. And that's a very difficult way to go about getting approvals. There's a very specific process laid out by the Physical and Land Use Planning Act of 2019 that has to work in line and or in step with the county policies, land use policies. And if it's done right, the size of the land that you're buying will come with the appropriate zoning approval in place. Like we do for our Acacia Cove property in Nanyuki, residential with residential user. In Naivasha, our commercial and high density res come with that specific user. our Rustling Dawn property on the shores of Lake Elementaita, 99 meters of water, pristine water frontage in that beautiful UNESCO World Heritage Site area, also come with a residential user or zoning in place. You don't have to look for that in the future or after you buy from us in order to build what we propose that you can use the land for. Okay, that's the way it's supposed to be done, which is why I often say at the beginning of these sessions that we are the most transparent land selling company in Kenya, therefore the most trustworthy one. It's just the truth. I'm not boasting. And you can ask questions and interrogate that. It's not just a marketing gimmick. And even if you're not buying from us, make sure whoever's selling you land provides you the documents to prove that it's usable for the purpose that they advertise to you for. I hope I've answered your question, Angie, and thank you for sending it through. Watiri K says, what's going on in Ardhi House? We in diaspora are getting frustrated trying to get our titles. I'm sorry to hear that, Watiri K, but we here in Nairobi, Kenya, generally have the same experience. Ardhi House has always been a nightmare to deal with, particularly if you're doing it remotely. It's just a sad truth. It's something I hate to admit about my beloved country in the industry that I am involved in on a daily basis. But my advice, Watiri, is get yourself a very strong advocate who knows how to navigate Ardhi House, particularly one who knows how to do so without compromising your integrity by engaging in corrupt practices of paying for play or paying to get access, paying to get approvals, paying to fast track this, that, or the other, or skip steps in the due process. Not worth the risk at all. It's the best advice I can give you, Watiri. Get yourself a strong lawyer, an honest one, who is going to stay at it until it gets done. We have a very strong one. I have to tell you, we've done transaction in Ardhi House in a fraction of the time that most people experience because they have people sitting on benches, staying there, stationed there all day. They have good rapport with the officers there. Unfortunately, because of the volumes of work that these people have to do at Ardhi House, they only pay attention to what is most urgent and in their face. For that to be the case, someone has to be in their face constantly. Okay, that is costly in time and resources. And also, they have to have good rapport. They have to be likable to the officers. Ideally, not because they're paying them something on the side. Okay, and admittedly, that's a difficult scenario to put together. But you just have to do it. What else are you going to do? Going to wait 5 years for your documents? No. So get yourself a strong advocate who knows how to navigate. And I pray that God blesses your efforts and you can get it done quick. Thank you for your question, Watiri. Someone named the underscore girl underscore that underscore I am on Instagram. Thank you for making it difficult for me to call your name. But thank you for tuning in. Says, please summarily let us know the process of selling/buying property, land, which has a mother title. Okay, the girl that I am on Instagram, could you please provide me more details? I'm not sure what you mean by land which has a mother title. Any land should have a title, period. So is there something specific you mean by mother title? The process is pretty simple though. You can find that on our checklist, Grand Acres checklist, 9 steps to buying or selling land safely in Kenya. I mean, if you're buying land, someone is selling. Okay, so the same documents apply. On one side, as a buyer, you're receiving these documents from the seller. If you're the seller, you need to have these documents in place in order to provide them to the buyer. If you haven't done so yet, It's a free resource on our website that we put together just for you, based off of 12 years experience buying and selling land in Kenya. 9 steps basically, right? Define your investment goals, scout for the land, what documents should you see when you do. Step number 3 is meeting the seller. What documents should you ask the seller for? Number 4, confirming the seller's identity, how to do that, including doing searches on their KRA PIN, on their ID, and all that. Number 5, negotiation. Number 6, hiring a licensed advocate, what you should ask an advocate for to make sure that they are qualified to serve you. Number 7, signing the sale agreement. What documents need to accompany the sale agreement? What clauses are a bare minimum for the sale agreement? And how to use an escrow account to manage the exchange of funds in the transaction. And completion, including what makes up your completion documents to make sure that at the end of that transaction, everything was done right. Very comprehensive. Download it for free. Click on the checklist tab on our website, which is www.grandacres.co.ke, and Bob's your uncle. Stanaman2 on TikTok says, if you are in diaspora and want to process your title deed in Kenya, how do you go about it? First thing you do is hire yourself a licensed advocate to help you, because you can't do it remotely from the diaspora. You need someone engaging the offices physically with physical documents and lodging those formally, paying the required fees and signing the necessary documents. You can't do it on your own, Stanaman. Find someone you trust, ideally a licensed advocate who specializes in conveyancing law, to do it for you. No shortcuts. I'm sorry, there's just no other way. You can't do it remotely, not yet in Kenya anyway. Surveyor Nicholas M on TikTok says, what due diligence should I do to purchase an allotment plot in a town? Surveyor Nicholas, this one I'm a bit thin on details because I've never bought a plot with allotment letters. I do not recommend anyone does either, which is why I haven't bought it. It's not worth the risk for me. Now, if you really want to do so, as always, work with the experts, the licensed professionals. They know what to look out for. First thing I would do, I just received a property as an inheritance from my dear parents that were an allotment from my grandparents. And I'm currently working on having that converted to a title deed. Why? Because I am not comfortable holding property that's on allotment letters. Allotment letters are issued by county authorities, assigning you the right to use a particular space for a specific purpose. You pay a lease fee, a nominal fee every year to the county in order to keep your allotment. But in many cases, these can be converted to title deeds. Okay, so find out what that process is for your specific area or county, and get a licensed advocate to help you with that. Also, a licensed surveyor to confirm boundaries, and any other expert that you might need along the way, because I don't know what documents you have in place. Okay. Your title suggests that you are a surveyor, so I think you'll have yourself covered on the survey bit. On the rest, I strongly recommend that you find yourself a licensed advocate who can navigate that for you properly. Especially because there is no title deed yet, you need to keep that process super tight so that your ownership is not challenged later on because you skipped some important step in the due process. Okay. Happy to chat in person or offline if you like, and we can chime in where we can. Ravoga on TikTok says, would you be up to buying bulk land after doing due diligence? Of course, Ravoga, we never buy anything without doing due diligence. What do you mean by bulk land? I mean, we're always scouting for opportunities. So yeah, we'd be interested. If you have details, send them on email. Gladys is gonna post the list of things we require from you in order to make an accurate assessment of our interest in pursuing the purchase. I think you're gonna are you gonna DM?
Yeah.
Okay. Gladys is gonna DM you Ravoga on TikTok, but thank you so much for asking your question. Same with the last three people who've asked questions. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Is that Ilane? Elaine? Ilane? Ilane on TikTok says, what happens when you buy an ancestral land with a caveat? Will there be repercussions in the future? My only question to you, Ilane, is does the ancestral land have a title deed to it? Okay, number one. Number two, what exactly is a caveat? What's a caveat on that title? If you can provide me those two pieces of information, I might be able to answer you a bit more accurately. And thank you for sending in your question, Ilane. Abdul Fattah. Hey, Abdul Fattah. Good to see you on Instagram. I don't think we saw you last week. Thank you for tuning in again. And Abdul Fattah says it's 2030 and our motherland, Kenya, has evolved to the highest echelons in technology. Do you see the due diligence being different from now? Well, assuming that your vision for Kenya in 2030 as far as the highest echelons in technology is concerned, yes, would be very different. How different, you might ask? I say it would be exactly as it is in countries like Estonia today, where everything is done digitally. In Estonia today, if you buy land, you never need to interact with a human being. Everything is done online and it takes hours, literally. In fact, the only time you interact with a human being is if the registrar who is effecting the transfer requires you and the seller, or you and the buyer, if you're the seller, the two parties to the transaction would meet the registrar at the same time, and only for the purpose of, get this, the registrar confirming that the seller is not being forced to sell, is that they're selling willingly. From what I've been told by an Estonian citizen, is that it takes 3 minutes, literally. You are so and so, let me see your documents. You are so and so. Is someone forcing you to sell? No, I'm selling willingly to this person seated in front of me. Excellent, have a good day, out the door. And the title deeds are registered in 2 hours max, 2 to 3 hours. You get your title deed. How awesome is that? They've blockchained a lot of these processes. Everything is done digitally. This is my vision for Kenya by 2030. I'm sure by 2030, countries like Estonia would have evolved to something even higher in echelons, like you put it, as far as the technology is concerned. I'd be happy if Kenya got there by 2030, because countries like Estonia have been living this way for almost a decade already. So we're running behind. I pray we get there, Abdul Fattah, and we would all be the better for it. Sir Prestige, what's up, Sir Prestige? Good to see you. We've missed your comments. Sir Prestige says, I'm back in Nairobi next week. I'll pull up by your Riverside spot and say hi in person. You're so welcome, Sir Prestige. It will be good to see you. Welcome to our offices. Let's have a coffee and catch up. And thank you for commenting, man. I really appreciate your positive vibes. This year, we've made a resolution, good vibes only. We're not dealing with negativity. And Sir Prestige, you are the epitome of good vibes. So, karibu sana. Kennedy.odhiambo on Instagram says, hi, so hey, what's up, Kennedy? Good to see you as well. Kennedy is one of our customers. Hi Solo, do you have references to architects with modern housing portfolios? 100% yes. We just finished a meeting a few minutes before we started with one of the best architects we've ever worked with, Mr. Chris Osore, the principal of DLR Architects. He has an amazing team behind him. People like Dennis, Bex, and Malcolm, amazing designers that we're working with, backed by his American partners, Chris B. Uh, Amazing. I mean, it's an American firm. They have offices in Africa, headquartered in Nairobi. So local context has been taken into consideration. I'm happy to share their contacts, Kennedy. And we also have a couple others like Andrew Kusewa of Bukatman and Partners, and a few others that we've been introduced to very recently that we're working on concepts with. Okay, so we'll share that information with you. If not tonight, Kennedy, we know how to reach you, email, phone. We'll send you their contacts. Thank you for asking your question, man. Richard by Zantine? Richard by Zantine? Oh, Richard Byzantine. Okay. Richard the Byzantine on TikTok says blockchaining is a way to go, especially in a country like Kenya. Efficiency, security. 1,000,000%, Richard. Thank you for saying that. The game is going on in land offices. Epic is what Richard Byzantine says. Yes, they are epic. I mean, some of the things I have dealt with personally could make an interesting movie plot on Netflix. And blockchaining would kill a lot of the problems we have to deal with. Absolutely. So I pray our leadership takes these steps to bring these into effect, because it will be much better for Kenyans, foreigners. It'll unlock so much credit and capital. Our economy would transform tremendously if that was ever done. So may it be so. Noor Dashpana on TikTok says, can I own a house in full ownership in Nairobi as a foreigner? Yes, Noor Pana. If it's a leasehold property, you can own it fully for up to 99 years. At the end of 99 years, either you or your successors can renew that lease for another 99 years. Yes, you can. As long as it's leasehold. If it's freehold, you cannot, as I shared earlier. Super. We've finished all the questions already. You guys are slow today, man. How can I keep up with you like this? Awesome. There's a question?
Yeah.
What does it say? You can read it out if it's hanging on you.
I just don't know how to pronounce
You laugh at me when I mispronounce names. Let's laugh at you also. Ilane.
Yeah.
Ilane says, Ilane asked a question earlier. Ilane says, how do we protect ourselves from our title deeds not being transferred without our consent? How do I answer that question? Ilane, it's very difficult to transfer titles without the registered owner's consent. Okay, if you are the registered owner of record on that title, it's very difficult for that title to get transferred without your consent. For that to happen, it would take considerable collusion by several parties and authorities behind the scenes, including and not limited to the land registrar, the clerks in the registry, in some cases, unfortunately, members of the forces, law enforcement would have to be involved. You would also need collusion from the land control board members, who would need to sign a letter of consent if it's a freehold property. I mean, the number of people who have to team up to get this done is insane. So it's not that easy. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare that it does. Now, one of the things I have seen some people do to make that even harder is if it's an asset that you're going to own for the foreseeable indefinite future, you have no plans to sell it immediately and that sort of thing. A lot of people, especially those with large chunks of land, but it's something you can do even with a title to a 50 by 100, right? Have it professionally valued, determine what the market valuation is today, get your banker where you bank, where you have banking records for transactions you undertake on a frequent basis, give you a line of credit or even a loan against that title as security. Why? Because in order for them to do so, they will register a charge, a lien against that title, saying that you owe them such and such against this title as security. Now, the reason this makes it harder is because before any transfer occurs, all charges and liens have to be discharged by whoever is holding the charge or lien. That simply adds an extra layer of barrier or difficulty for would-be colluders who are trying to transfer your title from you to them without your consent. Okay, so that's a great thing to do, especially for titles you intend to hold for the foreseeable future indefinitely. Other than that, just make sure that you follow due process in acquiring your title. Make sure you have knowledge of where your original title deeds are. Have custody of them, lock them up in a safety deposit box, preferably one that's fireproof as well, because fires do happen and titles get lost. And in that mess, some people will take advantage to create new documents with new ownership. Okay, so have possession, tight possession of your documents. And other than that, there's not much else you can do. If the authorities and the custodians of these documents on the back end, particularly the green card, want to steal a property from you, there are ways that they can do that. But if you follow due process and you have records of your documents, you can hold them to account and you have a fighting chance. It's the best I can say. But it's rare that it happens. It's not common because it takes a lot to do. Okay, I hope that helps. Kangs_RG on Instagram says, "Hi Solomon, waiting for you to have some good size, decent and well priced plots by the coast for budget buyers." Thank you, Kangs. You know, we're constantly scouting and we're hoping we'll have something at the coast soon. I'm not sure when, but if I may ask you, Kangs_RG on Instagram, what do you consider to be a good size? And what do you consider to be decent and well priced? That would be really helpful for us, okay, as we scout, because it matters to us. We want to serve your needs. So if you have an idea what that is for you, please let us know. We'd really appreciate that. Abdul Fattah on Instagram says 41% of the world will have elections this year. Wow, that's a lot of countries. I didn't know that, Abdul Fattah. Thank you for sharing that. 41% of the world will have elections this year. That's nuts, including the superpowers. How do you see this impacting Kenya as a whole and the real estate industry, given that our country is now a visa-free country? Wait, Abdul Fattah, you have thought far. That's a great question, man. I have to say. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. You know, I can't say that I've noticed any impact on Kenya as far as real estate is concerned when superpowers have elections. That's the honest truth. I haven't seen any impact in that sense. Now, to the extent that, for instance, when President Donald Trump got elected to his first term, okay, there was a lot of concern. And even throughout his presidency, particularly with the African American community, and others who were opposed to his presidency. Um, we, I have to say, we did see a spike in investment activity by Kenyans specifically back home. Okay, and I actually had the opportunity to ask a couple of them what was informing their decision to be a bit more aggressive about buying, or finally buying when before they didn't really feel the need to. And many of them shared their concerns about the future livability of the United States of America, particularly as it related to race relations. And many felt that they were no longer comfortable planning to spend the rest of their days in the US. So they felt the need to acquire land and invest back home now so that they have a soft landing when they come back home to live out the rest of their lives. It makes sense in that respect, but other than that, I haven't seen any other impact on Kenyan real estate because of superpower election years. Um, I imagine we've had years in the past where a similar percentage of the Earth's population was going into elections. Okay, if they're based on fixed terms, 4 years ago, perhaps 5 years ago, uh, a huge percentage of the world was going through elections. I haven't seen any impact in that sense. So, to what extent that means anything, because we're a visa-free country, I suppose in theory we'll have a lot of people leaving those countries if they're not happy with the direction those countries are taking, and move to Kenya. Personally, I am a bit concerned about the visa-free status that we have now for foreigners coming into Kenya. On the surface, it sounds like it will be great for the economy, particularly with tourism, but I feel like it's also left us a bit exposed to riffraff, the wrong kinds of people coming to Kenya, as opposed to the right ones. Uh, I don't have any data to support that yet, but it's just it's a feeling thing that I have, and a lot of Kenyans feel the same way because we talk about it. Um, Honestly, for me, I think just my 2 cents. The visa-free status should have been afforded only to African nationals. Okay, let's do this Africa Free Trade Zone thing properly. Um, let's allow Africans to travel to their fellow African countries without impediments. Let's encourage trade. Let's encourage exchange of ideas and sharing of history, information, and that sort of thing. For foreigners outside of Africa, I would say it should be reciprocal. If a country out there requires Kenyans to apply for a visa, we should require them to apply for a visa to come here as well. I don't care if it's the US or the UK or Germany, whatever. If they require us to apply for visas, we should require them to apply for visas coming here. We shouldn't make it a one-way situation where they can come here visa-free, but then if we want to go there, we have to apply for visas, and it's extremely difficult too. Just my 2 cents. To what extent that will affect our economy this year, because 41% of them are going into elections. Let's wait and see, Abdul Fattah. But that's a great, that is so left field. I would never have thought of that. Thank you for sharing that. Kangs, okay, Kangs_RG on Instagram. Follow-up question says, personally, 1 acre is decent. Oh, awesome. And it would be to take advantage of the mortgage options with single-digit interest available currently by most banks. Most of them don't exceed 6 to 8 M, but that include. Is there a part 2 to this?
Oh, we didn't finish. Oh, that's the end of the question.
I say, okay. Thanks for letting us know, Kangs RG. Duly noted on the 1 acre size. And it makes sense that it will be more manageable in terms of taking out mortgages because of the cap the borrowing cap at 6 to 8 million for unsecured loans. Probably, I've received a lot of advertising from the local banks, ABSA, NCBA, who else? INM Bank. I think they're up to 10 million for unsecured loans, depending on your cash flows. Yeah, makes sense. Duly noted. We'll keep that in mind, Kangs_RG, and we'll let you know whenever we do find something at the coast that fits the bill. Asante sana. ETA permits passes on TikTok says, what happens when a client has an allotment letter and RIM, but another person allegedly has a title? Unfortunately, normally the person with the title wins. But no other documents. Well, if the title deed number is reflected on the RIM, the same one that you have, the person with the title wins. I mean, this is why I don't recommend people deal with properties on allotment, because they are subject to the vagaries of a random human being's decisions and actions on the back end of some office in the county government. Title deeds are a lot more difficult to screw around with. Okay, so in your situation, ETA/permits, passes on TikTok. If the situation is such that you have an allotment letter to a specific plot that's indicated on the registry index map, but someone else has a title deed to the same plot but doesn't have other documents, that means that they have a title deed to the same plot that's on the registry index map that you have, okay? Because the registry index map is universal. You having a copy means they can also go and get a copy from the Department of Survey, because there's only one original. Usually there might be two kept at different offices or jurisdictions by the Department of Survey, like Ruaraka. I know a lot of locations outside of Nairobi will have offices that have RIMs there, but they might have another original at the headquarters in Ruaraka. But all the same, if they have a copy of an RIM, it means that the same plot exists on any other copy of an RIM. And if they have a title deed and you don't, that's, you have the weak hand. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, I strongly, as always, recommend get yourself a strong lawyer, go present your documents, explain the situation, and they can advise you further on what recourse you may have. But generally speaking, if someone has a title, the title deed is stronger than an allotment letter. Just because they don't have a copy of the RIM doesn't mean anything. They could go and pay for a copy of one. They say it's the same copy that you have, and the title deed carries a day normally. So I hope that helps, CTA, and that sounds like a distressing situation. See a lawyer and get proper counsel, and I wish you all the best, man. Or lady, if you're a lady. Kennedy.Odhiambo on Instagram says, Kenya being the country we know it to be, would you advise transferring property assets to a corporate body in Kenya for the purpose of asset protection? Would that help? Would that help aid to curb illegal transfers? Yes, absolutely, Kennedy. I mean, it's one of the primary reasons we trade in the name of a company as opposed to me doing it personally, like I did the very first time we bought and sold land back in 2011. Okay, you have limited liability, first of all. That's what limited company means. Your liabilities are limited to the entity as opposed to you being personally liable to some extent. In addition, Uh, you have tax benefits. It's a lot more tax efficient to own property in the name of a company as opposed to personally, particularly if you're going to be in the habit of buying and selling regularly for capital gains. There's some tax benefits there. As always, get advice from the right professionals. The tax advisors, the tax lawyers can advise you appropriately on how to structure that. But yes, in general, my answer is it's much better to hold property, especially as an asset in a corporate body, than an individual. That's my 2 cents. Brade on TikTok says, your work is amazing. And I support you. People like we need to work, we need who work with a lot of honesty. Okay, people like us need to work with a lot of honesty, I guess is what Brother is trying to say. Big up. Thank you for your kind compliment, Brother. I appreciate that. There's many of us out here, by the way, I'm not alone. I'm just the only one doing Facebook lives instead of being at home with my kids and chilling, right, on a Thursday night. But that's really encouraging, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. We got 2 minutes. We have time for one more. Abdul Fattah on Instagram says, with a lot going on in the world, how can Kenyans protect their assets with things like trust or life insurance or LLC/S Corp? Okay. Thank you for that comment, Abdul Fattah. I think S Corps are not applied in Kenya. S Corps and LLCs, that's in the US mostly. Trusts are a great way to protect assets, even in Kenya. Okay. Same with life insurance. These are great tools to use in terms of financial planning and succession planning to protect assets, to hold assets, manage them for your successors, your heirs, without having to lose them. Okay. They're also a lot more tax efficient in many cases. So I would strongly recommend that people look into trusts. I'm doing one, for instance, for property I have inherited. Life insurance, same thing. LLCs, in Kenya, they're called LTDs, limited liability corporations or companies. S Corps, you can only work with in Western jurisdictions, not in Kenya yet. I'm sure there's many similarities and overlaps between the entities we use here versus those in the States, but these are great tools to use. How you can use them, I mean, that's a conversation for another day. We actually had this chat with Mr. Adnan Khan, the head of real estate at Anjawala and Kana, who also handles trusts, trust structuring. If you get time, check out our social media handles and find that video. He did talk quite a bit about that, and you can also check them out. Check their website, talk to advocates. There are specific kinds of advocates who specialize on trusts. Adili Corporation is one that I strongly recommend. I've worked with them for years. They do handle trusts, family trusts, corporate trusts, and that sort of thing. Get educated, find out how best these structures and tools could suit your specific personal needs. But thank you so much. It's been a lively 1 hour. It's now 1 minute past 9 p.m. Thank you all so much for making time to participate in our Thursday live. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing this with everyone you like, love, and respect that is interested in land investment. If you're curious about what we have on offer for you to purchase and invest in safely, please go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. If something you like is up there, reach out to us ASAP. We'd be happy to add you to our neighborhoods because we're in the business of building solid communities of like-minded individuals in the most beautiful parts of Kenya safely. and we would be honored for that. So with that, wishing you all a blessed night and see you all next Thursday.